definition section. First, it does not encompass any service providing acceptance, support, or understanding of someone in their sexual orientation or gender identity. And two, it does not include services facilitating a person's coping, social support, or sexual orientation or gender identity. The subsection 2 takes into consideration like certain medical conditions that would be considered under it, like for example HIV treatment. That would not be considered conversion therapy. Any services that's facilitating a person's sexual orientation in the context of another health condition. All right. So finally, and then there's section 7-111. This is the prohibition section, so this is the most important section. This is a word-for-word copy-paste. It is a violation for any provider, as defined in section 725.2 of Title 59 of Oklahoma statutes, to engage in conversion therapy with a minor. It's pretty short, it's pretty simple, but it gets to the point. So I underlined and italicized provider because that is an operative word in this ordinance. First, it means that this does not extend to any church or other non-licensed counseling service. So that's an important distinction. I couldn't find any municipality or state that also reached into the religious aspect of conversion therapy. All so far have been restrained only to licensed providers in whatever statutory scheme or jurisdiction that they're in. So in line with that, that's what we've done, and we've limited this to providers as defined under state law, because as you know, the city does not currently license any mental health providers in the city. So using that state limitation of only providers, again, it would only ban conversion therapy with a minor or anyone under the age of 18. So finally, there's the issue of enforcement. So the penalty range, which is the same as the other anti-discrimination prohibition that we have in Chapter 7, is the same. It's $50 to $750 and or up to 60 days imprisonment, and that would be through a municipal court charge in the Norman Municipal Court. Also, we have the option of a civil action in any court of competent jurisdiction. So, for example, an injunction against a provider who is engaging in conversion therapy with a minor may be necessary. And the subsection B just allows the city to recognize that we are considering that as an option moving forward, and we're not limiting ourselves to just a criminal misdemeanor. Oh, and I think I skipped the important part. Any questions? Oh, hold on, no, I didn't. I skipped two. First Amendment. So that was one of the things that we would need to consider. The courts have struggled recently in determining how speech fits inside the professional context of therapy, because therapy is technically speech, and especially with speech therapy. So what you see is the courts grappling right now, so you have a kind of a mixture of court opinions on these types of ordinances, but in the 10th Circuit, there is no binding precedent that would restrict us from enacting any ban at the moment. So now if you guys have questions.
Are there any questions from council regarding this item? Seeing none. Oh, Councilmember Patron.
I'm going to read one to you from a constituent. Okay, it says, if this ordinance were to pass, what precedent does that set? In other words, can the city pass ordinances that restrict the actions and levy fines on other professions that are governed and licensed by state statutes? Examples are attorneys, CPAs, dentists, etc. I guess I didn't 100% understand this question, so perhaps you do. I think maybe what he's saying is that does this have any effect on future ordinances for other professions?
I will say that, we have to keep in mind that the city does have a general police power. And so what that means is that the city, as a municipality, is, tasked with, protecting the health and welfare of its citizens. So while we do have kind of like a little bit of a constraint because we can't, in a lot of instances, we are preempted by state law in certain statutory schemes, that doesn't mean we are, incapable of, enacting our police power. And so I think that's a good question because there are some ways that we can't act, but this I think is one because this is a legitimate action of the city's police power.
And then my other question was, as far as the definitions from the very beginning, and I just want it on the record because we had this discussion during study session, but it does not apply, the definition you said, change sexual orientation or gender identity, but it doesn't apply, it's not banning transitioning if you're trans, correct?
Correct. And so let me kind of rephrase that question just to make sure, one, I understand, and two, that I'm addressing it correctly. So if, like, for example, a counselor who's assisting someone in changing their like physical characteristics to meet their gender identity. So that is supporting their gender identity. So that would be considered not conversion therapy under the express wording of the ordinance.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from council? Councilmember Holman, click, you got something on your mind? Okay. All right. Well, this is an opportunity for members of the public to make comments regarding this item. Each side will have up to 1 hour. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or less, and no yielding of time to another person. Madam Clerk, please begin.
Okay, we're going to start with the opposition, and the first speaker would be Greg Jensen. Okay, let's move to this next speaker, Gary Barksdale.
Council, I wish to address this issue from an emotional standpoint and from one of reason. First, allow me to plea upon the sensibilities of the parents on this council, the responsible parents on this council, not those who think it's cool to use drugs with their children, but the real parents on this council. I wish to appeal to your sensibilities. On page 698 of the DSM-5, and you can check it out to find out that this is true, pedophilia is defined as a sexual orientation. It's true. Look it up. This proposed ordinance makes it illegal for a therapist to engage in any effort to change the behaviors of a sexual orientation. It's defined by the DSM-5. Look it up. Therefore, a therapist in Norman cannot, as per this document, make any effort to convert a 15-year-old that suffers from this type of orientation. It's illegal now, if you guys pass this. Now let me approach it from a reasonable standpoint. Councilman Holman stated in a letter to a constituent very condescendingly that this document has been reviewed many times, and since this is the second reading, it has been reviewed and the vote on it tonight will be valid. Okay, have you ignored the comments within the document itself from the city attorney that states that this version directly regulates a profession concurrently regulated by the state and would not be considered a matter of local concern? I just wonder if you paid attention to that in those many reviews. Also, this document provides evidence that those on the HRC did a very piss-poor job of cutting and pasting, for this is wrought with clearly palpable punctuation errors and grammatical massacres. Also, I have to laugh that this is the very council that conveniently overlooked double dipping into the budget for a same item, that this council, I find it coincidental that through all the alleged reviews that you all couldn't even notice that the title of this document itself is misspelled. Can you tell me what a discussion is? D-I-C-U-S-S-I-O-N. So you're proposing that this is going to be a legal document and you can't even demonstrate a grade school grammatical competency? Now let's go on to precedent. If you succeed in passing this and we flip this council, then the wishes of Shane Dodson will come true, because we will then have a precedent with which we can base a ban on abortion. And then we will also succeed in banning these destructive hormone treatments that we subject children to, that over 6,500 have died from this last year. Set that precedent. Pass this. We'll do it. Now, I got to keep on speaking in opposition to this council's continued buffoonery. Thank you very much.
Kelly Lynn.
Good evening. I'm Kelly Lynn from Ward 3. While my emotion might not be as strong as Gary's, I take it as just the fact of the matter of what is the purview of city government. Is this it? if a parent wants to take their child to what is legally recognized by the state, licensed by the state, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this as a council? Why do you think that this should even be on an agenda before us right now? This is not roads or lights or public safety. I don't care what your opinion of it is for one way or the other. This is just not the purview of city government. And I will echo that if you do this and set precedent like this, one, I think that the first time that you find somebody, you're going to find yourself in a lawsuit tying up the city, and I think that the city will lose that lawsuit because people that have licenses in therapy are authorized by the state to conduct this as their business. There's another reason you run off business from the city. But
Come on, guys.
it's just a social agenda thing that has no business being up here. But you will find yourself in a lawsuit, and I think that your city attorney would probably agree with that, as she said, or the opinion said in the survey documents, that this is going with what has outside of the city government to do that is licensed by the state, and it's outside of the purview. Why are we even doing this? This is a divisive measure that it's just another albatross to hang around the neck of woke Norman City Council. When are we going to calm the waters? When are we going to do stuff that just is business of the city? And I agree that if you open this up, you will give the opportunity, if there's some changes in the council and whatnot, that could ban abortion. It's the same kind of thing, which is licensed and regulated by the state as of now. So I'm just asking you to use common sense. Don't do this just because of the fact that it's not city business.
Richard Tortorella?
Richard Tortorella, Ward 5. I have to echo the last two speakers' sentiments that this has nothing to do with city business, not the city roads, water, or anything like that. I do believe that this will be challenged in court if it is passed tonight, but I think the bigger picture is that the First Amendment right to free speech and association, if we don't create a safe space to have these conversations with transgender youth or anybody in that category, where else would they have this conversation? I think taking away this option in the city limits might very well put the people we're looking for and looking at protecting in danger if they can't go see a counselor or a therapist who's licensed by the state of Oklahoma. So again, I ask you guys, what does this have to do with city business? I don't see anything there, and like the previous speakers, it does open that box for other issues and other things that we voted on in a different council coming, and I think this sets a slippery precedence, and I'm always looking on the other side, playing devil's advocate, that if Dotson comes back and wants to ban abortion, or we make this an anti-sanctuary city, or anything that has nothing to do but it's societal in nature, when is it going to stop? I ask that, looking at these documents, I saw no opposing views brought up. Nobody came in, nobody was brought in to give an opposing view on the science or the anecdotal evidence, as there's nothing in the record right now, and no one is pursuing this. And I ask that for the time being that we just put this on hold until we can actually look at this in more detail to make it an informed decision that benefits the city as a whole. Thank you.
Okay, just want to make sure and see if Mr. Jensen has entered the room. Greg Jensen? Okay, just wanted to double check. We had a few new people. So now we will begin on the supporting side. First speaker will be Megan Strawn.
My name's Megan Strawn. I live in Ward 2. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, which means I am qualified to interpret the DSM. I'm also a parent, and I've lived in Norman my whole life, and I'm bisexual. For the last 9 years, I have facilitated Norman Youth Safe Haven, which is a support group for LGBTQ+ youth. Conversion therapy is an unequivocally abusive practice that meets neither evidence-based nor ethical standards. The National Association of Social Workers identified its harmful impacts in 1992 when I was 4 years old. In my personal life and in work with LGBTQ+ teens, I've experienced how intense an impact a community's support or lack of support has on mental health. Teens who have families who support their sexual and gender identities are less likely to attempt suicide, have depression, anxiety, PTSD, and the list goes on. Banning conversion therapy will literally save lives. Therapy should be a practice in which it's safe to be your authentic self. Conversion therapy seeks to coerce people into pretending that their reality isn't true. That's abuse. Children and youth deserve appropriate mental health care. They deserve a community that stands by them. They deserve a city council that will look out for them even when their families aren't willing to. This is absolutely city business, and this policy reflects science, ethics, and Norman values of inclusivity and diversity, and I urge you to vote yes. Thanks.
The next speaker will be Thomas McFarland.
Hello, I'm Tom McFarland in Ward 5. My education background is also in psychology. I work with teens and young adults. Conversion therapy programs are, again, not based on best care practices. What they claim to treat is not included within DSM-5, as we've already hit upon. But y'all have this understanding. You're well-educated folks. You've been through the sit-ins on this. You understand this. Let's talk about the effects. Like many of you, I am straight and I am cisgendered. Nobody tries to convert us. We don't have to come out of a closet. Nobody sends us to a place to be changed. We don't live this. For us, it is difficult to conceive of what it would be like to be manipulated and twisted to hate ourselves, to hate our identity. An identity as instrumental in our perception of self as where we were born, or our memories, or our language that is our native tongue. So, what makes you? We all have an identity. We all have something in there that identifies us. And you can't take that away from somebody. You cannot take the gender identity from someone or the sexual orientation from a person any more than you can take that thing that you have within yourself. I can't take your identity from you, and you cannot take it from me. But you can break a person in the attempt to do so. These programs break people. That is their profession. That is their goal. These programs crush people. They have crushed people I know. Suicide flows in their wake. Don't call yourself an ally and vote against this. That is hypocrisy. Folks have grown weary of it. It's performative measures followed by condescending nay votes with excuses to try to gain some kind of unity that is all a myth. Do not convince yourself that it is harmless, a non-issue, or something that folks in your life right now have been through, but they can't tell you about. Perform your role and ensure the safety of Normanites.
The next speaker is Mary Francis.
I'm Mary Francis from Ward 7, 850 Cardinal Creek, and I am opposed to conversion therapy, and I applaud the council for tackling this issue. Thank you. And as you know, this is, conversion therapy is not really therapy. It is a dangerous practice. It targets especially the youth, trying to change their sexual orientation. It's been discredited by almost all of the major medical, mainstream medical and mental health organizations, and it's been discredited for a long time, for decades. And it causes minors who are especially vulnerable, leads to depression and anxiety, sometimes drug use, homelessness, suicide, which we know about. I applaud the council for taking on this issue. Thank you.
Next speaker, Kate Devanzo.
Second, please. My name is Kate Devanzo, and I live in Ward 1. Conversion therapy is quite literally the use of emotional and psychological pain and abuse to try to change someone's sexual orientation. It is a futile effort when sexual orientation is not a choice, and it can't be changed. Conversion therapy does not make LGBTQ people straight. It forces them into unsafe environments, and it forces them to hide who they are in order to stay safe, in order to avoid punishment and protect themselves from abuse. The tactic is remnant of a time when homosexuality was considered a birth defect, a deformity, and even a mental illness. And now in 2021, we have made it loud and clear that being LGBTQ is as human as being straight, being short, having brown eyes, being a person. At its core, it's legalized psychological abuse. It isn't any more possible to turn a gay person straight than it is to turn a straight person gay. It has been proven to be traumatizing and harmful to its victims and is completely ineffective at altering a person's sexual orientation. I thank you for bringing this to the table, and I support this.
Christina Owen.
Christina Owen, Ward 4. It was very difficult for me to come today with physical ailments, but on a topic about child abuse and torture, I had to come down here. And we're going to hear a lot of things, but we're not going to necessarily hear the intricacies of conversion therapy. And I have been given permission to give this story, and I just want to give a advanced trigger warning that it is a little detailed, and I will try not to be graphic. But I know somebody who went through an ordeal in Norman where they put a device on a young boy's genitalia and then showed that young boy pornographic material to see if he became aroused by gay pornography. And if he did, and when he was given medicine to induce vomiting, to make him physically ill, to try to associate those feelings with being sick. That is what is happening. That is what has happened in Norman. And I think that surely everyone can agree that that is horrific. We should not be showing children pornographic material. We should not be putting instruments on their genitalia to measure such a thing. We should not be inducing them to become violently ill for being who they are. I just had to come down here to say that, no matter how hard it was for me, because it's harder to go through that than anybody's struggles to get here today. And I really want you to consider the individual people that go through this and the impact it will make. It will save children. It will save lives. Thank you.
Marguerite Larson. Okay. Kimberly Blodgett.
Hi, Kim Blodgett, Ward 7. I just prepared a little short speech because I'm a teacher, but also my son is gay, so I felt like I couldn't just let this meeting happen without speaking up. So, conversion therapy is dangerous pseudoscience practice that targets our LGBTQ youth by seeking to change their sexual or gender identity. Such practices have been discredited by medical and mental health organizations for years now, and the only reason we are still hearing about conversion therapy is because, unfortunately, there are still people who continue to discriminate against the LGBTQ community. Time and time again, conversion therapy has been proven to be ineffective at changing a person's sexual orientation. But aside from its ineffectiveness, conversion therapy puts our youth at a greater risk for suicide, depression, anxiety, drug use, and homelessness. Over 20 states now have laws protecting our youth from things like conversion therapy, and over 70 city municipalities have also enacted similar protections. So I urge you to join in with those 70 other cities and ban conversion therapy in Norman.
Michael Blanc.
It's Michael Blanc, Ward 2. I think we've already heard very sobering testimony this afternoon, but I believe it's important to continue to stand in solidarity with our trans brothers and sisters. And it's important to show that our community not only recognizes science and the opinion of the medical community, but more importantly, the humanity of our citizens, and recognizes the importance of supporting them in who they are. I think it's important that we continue to ban this. I kind of hoped that discussions of this would have gone the way of Sally Kern when she left office, and kind of just been taken care of, but obviously that's not true. I'm glad to see that we are joining many other municipalities, hopefully, in banning this practice. It is horrific, and I have many trans family, friends, and colleagues who I can't imagine someone putting them through this. To me, this feels like the kind of most of the opposition we heard tonight to this really didn't discuss any kind of real support of conversion therapy, and I believe it's because there really isn't any actual support for it beyond things that we probably couldn't stomach to hear. I remember, by the way, just to go back to earlier discussion, all last year when we struggled to fill a seat for Ward 2 for numerous reasons. And I remember how we had many city discussions where we talked about the importance of waiting until we had a full council. Well, we most certainly do now, and there is no reason not to continue the city's business as this is. So I please urge you to vote in favor of this ban. And I would say that, for what it's worth, that to somehow not support this ban, it feels inherently undemocratic. It feels authoritarian, and it feels as though it would be giving shelter to those who have told themselves that it is okay to abuse others in order to have the world fit into a box that doesn't exist. So, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Thank you.
Russell Rice. Michael Robertson.
Hello, I'm Michael Robertson. I live in Ward 7. I'm a proud police officer for your city. I'm the LGBTQ liaison to the city executive and the chapter president of PFLAG Norman. Mayor and council members, Hello, and thank you again for considering this ordinance, and thank you to the city staff for all your work on it, and the HRC. Norman is yet again paving the way for a more progressive community. We are also an example for our surrounding communities. Edmond, for example, passed their proclamation for Pride Month for the first time, despite the controversy. While these controversies are unfortunate, I believe they occur simply because of misunderstanding. Even as an out gay man, I used to misunderstand. I still do. And I'm still having to unlearn things. But I've also realized that I've come from a place of privilege. I've never had my parents force me to talk to someone about my sexuality. And I can't imagine what it would be like to experience that. However, I've spoken to many who have experienced this, and many of which still have damaged relationships with their parents. I ask that if anyone doesn't understand, have that conversation. There are organizations like PFLAG that are there available to help you and your children get through this together. Thank you.
Ellis, Ward 4. I just want to thank the City Council for taking up this issue. Well, Pride Month was still going on. I think that's an important message to send to the community that is represented here today. And I think it's been made clear, I think, that conversion therapy is a harmful practice, one that's not sanctioned by the sort of best medical directives from the counseling profession. So I think that's established clear enough. What I want to add is just that I think it's important that we not be taken in by sort of a false equivalency between protecting people from harmful practice, which is what you're proposing to do here today, versus imposing some kind of ideological test on the community, which is basically what has been suggested would happen if the city council changed, right? So this idea that a city council that would be willing to do it wouldn't try to do something like, ban abortion or impose ideological litmus tests like Florida is trying to impose upon their college, their college students and professors. I mean, I think that's probably a wish too far. You have to decide that you want to keep people free from harm, and your doing so doesn't mean that you're forcing anybody to think anything about anything else. You're just preventing people from being harmed. I think that's important for you to see. So thanks.
Caleb Creed.
I just wanted to say a few things. I am cisgendered and I'm straight, so I'm not going to give you my life experience. I'll just offer a few things and then I'll be done so we can hear from other people. 6,500 people did not die, in fact, from transitioning. That is a fake news story. You can look it up. There's an article about it right here. What that's from is they use the same drug on people with, it's a palliative in prostate cancer, in advanced prostate cancer cases. And a lot of those people who are on this drug die anyway. They took that number, and that's why people might have that misunderstanding. So that's what that is. Transitioning helps people survive. People have better outcomes in all mental health areas once they transition. And conversion therapy does the opposite. People who are not accepted by their parents are 8 times more likely to take their own life. So these are not the same, and it's a perverse comparison. And there's you can either say that you disagree with this kind of action by a council, or you can threaten to make a similar action yourself. But you cannot believe both at the same time. If you're threatening to make the action, you think that the action is good to make, or you think you shouldn't make it and you won't threaten to make a similar one yourself. So there's all sorts of issues with some things we've heard tonight. I just want to say, as the coordinator of Red Dirt Collective, solidarity with our LGBTQ plus allies, and thank you so much.
Amanda Franklin.
Franklin, Ward 4. I just want to thank the council for taking up this issue, and to my understanding, PFLAG and Pride and the Human Rights Commission for making this happen. Conversion therapy, trying to convert gay kids into straight kids is definitely torture and abusive and should be banned. And I know that as early as last year, 2020, there were lawmakers at the state capitol who were writing bills to protect conversion therapy. So I thank you for making an effort to ban this. I hope you support. Lee, thank you. I know you'll do the right thing. Thank you. So yeah, I mostly just want to say thank you. Thank you for everyone it's really nice to show up here and hear from mostly supportive folks, and happy Pride.
Alexandra Penner.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Penner. I am a resident of Ward 1, and I would like to address some myths that I've heard both in this meeting tonight and in the broader conversation around what are appropriate healthcare standards for transgender youth. So first of all, I'd like to address that children have been receiving puberty blockers since the 1970s. The most common use of puberty blockers is in the case of advanced cancers that would be affected by the onset of puberty, such as prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, etc. And puberty blockers are thoroughly proven as safe to take. The first kids who received puberty blockers are in their 50s and 60s now. If there were adverse effects coming, we would know by now. Likewise, there are strict standards for transgender people of all ages to receive care. I'm transgender myself, and I had to receive it. I needed multiple doctor's notes and therapist's notes proving that I had been consistently identifying as trans for over a year before I could get prescribed hormone therapy, and that was as an adult. It's even harder for kids. Likewise, surgeries, if you're under 18, you can't get a gender confirmation surgery. It's nearly, if not actually, impossible. It takes years to get approved for gender confirmation surgery as an adult. Likewise, it was suggested that if the council passes this, the council could then turn around and have precedent to ban abortion. The Supreme Court has upheld abortion as legal. Roe versus Wade is the law of the land, whereas there are 20 states in which there are current conversion therapy bans, and numerous municipalities, including Kansas City, Missouri, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The Supreme Court hasn't overrun any of those bans. However, bans on abortion are not allowed. That is settled case law. And also, all of those municipalities I mentioned, they are in states that the state licenses therapists. Obviously, Oklahoma state law is going to be different, but the overall regime is pretty similar. So I would like to just say thank you to the council for bringing up this important issue, and thank you very much. My time is expiring. I had a lot to say.
Philip Syke.
Hello. Conversion therapy is an ironic name because it manages to pack a lie per word. So let's quickly review both of those words. Conversion. This practice does not convert. At its most effective, and I use that term very loosely, it tortures and brutalizes those that are subjected to it to the point that they attempt to hide the truth in a desperate attempt to make their abuse stop. Then there's therapy. This practice is not therapeutic. It's not recognized by any valid psychological body, and to be therapy, it would have to benefit those that go through it. And the data on that is clear. It does nothing of the kind. And the purported condition to be treated by this practice is not recognized as a valid condition by the DSM to be treated. So, both of these words are an attempt to disguise what's truly happening here. It's an attempt at subjugating the LGBTQ community by those who do not have the health and well-being of that community at the forefront of their mind. So I urge you all to pass this ban, protect our city's children from those who would rather torture them to protect their ideology rather than confront the possibility of their own bigotry. Please ban this abhorrent practice and protect our children. Thank you.
Sheridan Johnson.
Hi, Sherry Johnson, Ward 5. Just repeating what everybody says. Conversion therapy is bad. Shouldn't be allowed. Telling LGBTQ plus people what to do, of who they should be, is like telling men. It's like men telling what women can do with their bodies. So very unacceptable. Also want to say that City Council is as a group of people governing, help governing a group of people. So I do think this is your job, and I thank you so much for taking this on. It's very concerning that we have elects that don't understand what City Council is, but deal with that. Thank you so much, and yeah.
Alan Hatcher.
Hello, Alan Hatcher, Ward 8. Just wanted to say please support this ban on conversion therapy. I'm hoping to see a unanimous vote to support this ban. I'm just here as a community member showing love and solidarity with the LGBTQ family, friends, and community members. It was mentioned once, but I just wanted to kind of add that the Supreme Court of the United States did allow decisions of the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals upholding New Jersey's anti-conversion therapy law to remain in effect. So this isn't a slippery slope like it was presented at the very beginning of this meeting by the other side. This has been held up by the Supreme Court of the United States multiple times. So please support this ban. Thank you.
Blake Woods.
I'm Father Blake Woods. I've been an Episcopal priest for about 10 years now, and here in Oklahoma, and have been a resident of Norman for 8 years. I am here to speak in support of this resolution. I imagine that most of the opposition to this ban on conversion therapy is probably religious in nature. And I felt like it was important to stand up and say that this is not the only faithful response to our LGBT brothers and sisters here in Norman. I've lived in Oklahoma my whole life. I've served kids my whole life, whether that be a camp counselor, working in group homes. I now am the Episcopal chaplain to the University of Oklahoma. I've lived in Oklahoma my whole life. I raised my kids and my family here. I have seen the effects of living in Oklahoma as an LGBT person. I am not, but I've seen it through the people I've worked with, through the young people here in this state. I have rejoiced with them in their best of times, but I've also wept with them as I've seen the awful pressure and burden carried by the LGBT youth that I've served. I've seen them struggle to conform to an identity that they cannot accept, struggle to be faithful in a religion that often tells them that they are not worthy of the love and acceptance of God because of a single characteristic, a characteristic that they were born and blessed with by that same God. Worst of all, I've attended the funerals of too many of those youth after they made the choice to end their life rather than live in a world that tells them they are a problem to be fixed instead of a beloved child of God, just as they are without question or equivocation. Conversion therapy, which is no therapy at all, does not serve or honor our children. It does not serve or honor the image of God that we say is present in them. Instead, it seeks to break them down and rebuild them into something else. It is a weapon used by parents who believe that they are helping, who believe that they are being faithful, but are destroying some of the best and most sacred parts of their children. And they do it in the name of God. It is control. It is hate. It is abuse. It is not therapy. It does not help. Protecting the defenseless is the role of government, and our children, in this case, are defenseless. I urge you to continue the work that you've already begun and to pass this resolution to serve and protect the youth of this community. Thank you.
Parker Manick.
Parker Manick, Ward 4. I hustled here straight from work, fresh punch stains. I work with kids, and I gotta say, like, I would be really fascinated. I missed the folks on the other side who would approve of something like this, and I'd be fascinated to see what their interaction is or has been like with children, if they've had any, because it is remarkable at what young of an age children understand how they're perceived and understand if elements of themselves are being perceived as wrong. And conversion therapy is exactly that. It is enforcing a lot of really horrible stereotypes about what it means to be a queer individual. And it's pretty well disgusting of just like telling a child that they are that wrong in their own skin. It just makes, I did not prepare a statement, and this is something that makes me really ragey, so I'm going to keep it very short. So I just appreciate that this is yet another like benchmark that's being set in this state, and I really, really appreciate you all promoting this. And I'm going to echo what another person has said of hoping for a unanimous vote to ban anything as horrible as this allowing to occur to our children. Thank you for your time.
Lori Collins.
Evening. Lori Collins, Ward 8. Want to thank the council for taking this up this evening. Most of what I was going to say has already been addressed by most of the other people who have commented this evening, but I did want to say a couple of things. Some of the earlier speakers this evening had some comments about what makes a good parent. And I would like to say good parents do not allow their children to be tortured and humiliated and disgraced by other people or by themselves. Good parents support their children and assist them with what they need. I come to you as a parent. My husband and I have 3 children. We live here in Norman, raised our children in Norman. They are young adults now. 2 of them, we have 3, 2 have come out as gender nonconforming. While that was certainly a surprise for us, the idea of conversion therapy, doing anything like that to them never played a part in any of our considerations. Love and support and helping them with anything that they needed is what is necessary when those kinds of things come up. Conversion therapy promotes hurt, humiliation, and pain in young adults who are struggling with their identity, and it does nothing to support them or show them who they can be. Conversion therapy is sometimes called reparative therapy. The name right there, reparative therapy, tells you that there's something wrong with you. You need to be fixed. You're a damaged person. So there is nothing good, there is nothing redeeming about this kind of therapy. Studies have shown that it doesn't work. At best, it just prevents people from engaging in behavior temporarily by some of the tactics that have been presented here this evening. Students who are subjected to this kind of therapy go on to have more risky sexual behavior, self-harm, self-abuse, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, those sorts of things. I also come to you as a registered nurse who works with these kids every day in the school system. I see the effects of this kind of lack of support from parents and from the community, and it's very damaging to our youth. So again, I thank you for your support for this evening. Thank you.
Cynthia T.
Cynthia Teague, Ward 3. Much of what I wanted to say has been said already. I'd just like to say thank you for bringing this up. I think it's very important that LGBT kids in this community see that the city is supportive of them, even if people closer to them are not. I'd also like to add that for a lot of parents, having their kid come out is a real surprise, something that they didn't expect to have happen. And I think that if we as a community say that conversion therapy is a practice that's damaging to kids, damaging to adults too, but we're focusing on kids now, that's guidance that we can provide for parents who might not have considered this situation before. The more that we can create a community in which kids can come out as they feel necessary and parents can find the information they need to support them in that, the better it is for all of us. And so I really appreciate that you are taking this on. Thank you.
Bo Clement.
Hi, my name is Bo Clement. I use they, them pronouns, and I live in Ward 4. I identify as pansexual and recently came out as non-binary, so as someone who lives in who is part of the LGBTQ community in Norman, I thank you for bringing this issue to light. I urge you to vote to prohibit providers from engaging in conversion therapy with minors in our city. As said before in the presentation, conversion therapy is not a supportive practice. It is specifically used to change who a person is, how they identify, and who they love. Conversion therapy goes against everything the LGBTQ community in Norman has been fighting for. I firmly believe that people should be able to love who they want and become who they were meant to be. And if we continue to allow therapy that's sole purpose is to change who people are, we are telling the youth of Norman that they can't be themselves, that they can't love who they want to love, and that they can't believe in the things they choose to believe. I am extremely grateful to have a family that accepts me for who I am and who I love. Many of my friends do not have this luxury, and it hurts so much to see them not get the love and care that they deserve. While I have always had a wonderful support system, people have not always been kind. I have been bullied since elementary school, been called slurs from the streets walking home from school, and been told that I should go to conversion therapy by my classmates. I cannot imagine where I would be without my support system, much less a family that would willingly subject me and my siblings to torture and emotional abuse. I have hope that the City of Norman will advocate for their young LGBTQ citizens by voting to prohibit conversion therapy. Thank you, and happy Pride Month.
Flora Ellis.
Flora Ellis, Ward 4. In the terms of our youth, banning conversion therapy would be poggers, or as in the speak of the more general public, absolutely wonderful. As I mentioned in the last meeting, this is an issue of consent. Minors cannot reasonably or legally consent to sexual activity, and therefore cannot be expected to be able to consent to changing their views on these topics. As well, I was hopeful that someone of actual Native American descent would be able to bring up this topic, but I could not find anyone who was available to speak today of the people that I knew. I would like to inform or remind the people in this room that almost all tribes who were originally on this land before us were more accepting of different sexual orientations and gender identities. If pre-colonial contact Americans could accept these identities, why don't we? And finally, I would like to read a statement by a friend of mine and a person in this audience. I will be speaking this as them. Growing up with my grandma, I was raised in an abusive household. When I came out to my grandma, she and my grandpa forced me into, quote, religious education classes every Wednesday. It wasn't strictly conversion therapy per se, but every Wednesday, me and my group of queer peers and friends were told at the beginning of every class that we should not be who we are. I was sat down by my grandparents about once a week, and they asked me how I felt about God. But what they really meant was, are you still queer? And after a few years of these classes, I was put into a residential mental health treatment for a suicide attempt.
I was in treatment for just over a month, and when I got out, my grandma brought me to a new therapist that she personally chose for me, who gaslit me, and my mental health rapidly got worse and worse until I did in fact end up on drugs and was eventually homeless. And only in the last few months have I managed to find myself a stable home. Returning to speaking as myself, I would like to thank all of you who have stood for this ordinance, both in the audience and on the council. And please support our LGBTQ Youth Council, and this would be a great way to end Pride Month with a bang. Thank you.
Are there any final comments from council regarding this item? Councilmember Foreman.
Oh, I beat you. I didn't think I beat him. I guess my question would be for Catherine or legal. Someone did ask me, say a student is in therapy and they feel confused about their sexual identity and they start talking to their therapist about it. Where does it cross the line on conversion therapy?
Well, it would just be by the definition in the ordinance. So it would be therapy that's not supportive of their sexual orientation or gender identity, but therapy that aims to change it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Holman.
Thank you. I just want to extend an appreciation to everybody that's come out to the meeting this afternoon and shared your stories with us. I've been on council for 8 years, and I've definitely heard the argument many times about various subjects that aren't city business or the city council shouldn't consider. But I did take an oath of office to protect the health, safety, and well-being of the people of Norman, and I do believe that this proposal is doing just that. And so that makes it city business, in my opinion. And I have heard from many Ward 7 residents specifically about this issue. Not a single one has contacted me in opposition. And for Ward 7, I don't hear a whole lot of feedback compared to some of the other wards sometimes. We have the lowest population, the lowest voter total of all the wards. But the last two Human Rights Commission chairs have both been Ward 7 residents, and there are currently 3 members of the commission that are Ward 7 residents. So to me, the support is overwhelmingly from my district, and I will be supporting this tonight. It was mentioned there are 20 states currently that have a ban enacted, coast to coast, really. There are Republican and Democrat states. One of the ones that surprised me was Utah, actually, has a ban. And then multiple cities. I showed 93 municipalities, including Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. As was mentioned by our legal staff, our circuit court has not made a ruling on this specifically, I guess. There has been one that I'm reading about in the 11th Circuit, which has put a hold or has suspended the bans in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. So I suspect this may be making its way to the Supreme Court again at some point based off that, but the 11th Circuit does not govern the state of Oklahoma and Norman, so I see no reason why this council should not support this tonight. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Studley.
I also just want to thank everyone for coming out and speaking. I know how difficult it is to come out and talk about these things, especially with how difficult of a subject this is. It is city business to protect those who can't protect themselves. It's child abuse. Conversion therapy is child abuse. It causes increased suicide rates. I came out in the 90s as being bisexual, and I could not imagine someone telling me that I couldn't love who I wanted, or that I had to go and talk to someone that told me that what I was doing was wrong, and that I'm not the right person, that I'm the wrong person, that I'm identifying the wrong way, or I'm doing the wrong thing. So there's a difference between going to a therapist and talking about your feelings and your emotions and what you're going through as a teenager and what that feels like for yourself and trying to cope with your own feelings versus going to someone who's telling you that what you're doing is a sin or that what you're feeling is wrong. I called my 15-year-old before I came in here tonight, who's at her dad's for the summer, and I told her what we were doing tonight, that there was a special session, and she clapped, and then she said, "Why is this even a thing? Why is this even a thing? Why is there such a thing as conversion therapy in our society?" So again, I just want to thank you guys for coming out and for speaking your truth and sharing your truth. And I will be in support of this ban. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hall.
So I also would like to just take a moment to thank each and every one of you for having the courage to come out tonight. Also want to thank all the people who did not feel safe enough to be able to come and use their voice tonight, but who trusted us enough to reach out privately. So thanks to each and every one of you who have used your voice tonight, either in public or in private. And our intent really is to have the chamber a safe place for all voices. So that is our continued commitment to you. As Councilmember Holman stated, I take very seriously our primary responsibility as council members to protect the health, safety, and well-being of every single resident in Norman. There's really nothing else I can say that you haven't eloquently stated yourself, and I will be in support of this tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Schuler.
Yeah, I would just like to echo what my fellow council members have been saying. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being brave enough to share your truth with us, as well as for those who have, again, like Councilmember Hall, were able to, reach out to us. Ward 2 was very clear about their views on this particular issue. I did not receive any, negative feedback about passing this, and so I am in full support of passing this tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Patron.
That's fast. If protecting children from child abuse isn't the purview of government, I'm not sure what the purview of government is. I read a post today that was something along the lines of basically saying this is my parental right to abuse my kid in this way. I mean, that's basically what I took from it, that it was falling under some sort of parental rights. And sadly, in Oklahoma, that's true. We haven't passed anything in the state government protecting our kids from this, but that doesn't mean that the city has to continue to tolerate this kind of abuse and psychological trauma. I hope that the Human Rights Commission, well, first of all, I want to thank them and thank Don Holliday as well, Sage Malden, Christina Owen, so many of you that have spent countless hours doing this. Thank you. I hope that the next thing that the Human Rights Commission will take up is another child abuse loophole in the state of Oklahoma that Ms. Owen knows all too well, which is child trafficking young brides in Oklahoma. Minors, aged, I think there is no age, actually. A 12-year-old can marry a 40-year-old, and as long as they can find a judge to sign off on it, and hopefully they'll take that up in Norman as well, because we have some sadistic laws that are, or practices that are allowed in this state, and this conversion abuse is one of those. And I have no reservation at all with banning it in Norman, because that is the purview of government, is to protect the people, and especially the defenseless. I mean, these are children that we're talking about tonight, but it's not just children, it's adults as well that fall victim and prey to, of these practices that are, it's just sadistic. And so I want to thank you all for being here and speaking your truth. And you're brave, and you're beautiful, and you're perfect, just the way that you are, every single one of you, and everybody at home who's listening. And never let anybody tell you otherwise. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Bernash.
Yeah, so I have a niece who's, I guess, somewhere on the LGBTQ plus spectrum. I'm not going to pretend like I know everything there is to know about all the colors of the rainbow. But she's confident in who she is. She has a firmly established identity, and I wonder if we were to convert her, what would we convert her to? If she was anything else, she wouldn't be my niece. She wouldn't be the person who she is. And the thought that you can use operant conditioning to change somebody's identity is the plot of a lot of dark psychological horror movies. And it's sad that we have to apologize for the rest of our state so often. But yeah, I saw in our local hate groups a little thread today talking about calling this just virtue signaling. I don't know what exactly that means, but if we need to hold up a torch to the rest of the country saying that our state might be backwards, but we are not, we'll protect our people, whatever their identity is, whoever they choose to love, whatever color they are. This is an inclusive community. The only thing that we do not tolerate here is hate and hatred. So I'm thrilled that it sounds like there is no opposition to passing this, and I'm surprised we haven't done this sooner. So, thank you.
Thank you. I guess for my comments, sometimes local government can be hard. You guys saw last summer. Oh, God. But this is the good stuff. You all are very eloquent. I cannot even come close to what you all said. And you all are wonderful and never quit fighting. And I dig that about you. I appreciate it. It's what makes Norman great. And I'm so grateful for our hardworking staff that was working on this and not afraid to take it on. And Don Holliday, he definitely deserves a shout out for his work. Our Human Rights Commission, I promise you, I know that we seem like the black sheep, whatever, troublemakers, trailblazers here in Norman, but people are seeing it. They see that we care about our residents and that we make tough choices. And I could not be more proud to be mayor of this city. I just want to make sure you all know that. Okay, the motion on the floor is to adopt the ordinance on second reading. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to adopt the ordinance upon second reading passes unanimously.
Thank you. I'll now, hold on. I'll now entertain a motion to adopt or reject the ordinance on final reading.
So moved. Second.
The motion on the floor is to adopt the ordinance on final reading. Council members, you may cast your votes.
All votes have been cast, and the motion to adopt the ordinance on final reading passes unanimously.
Happy Pride, y'all. All right, this meeting is adjourned.